Hi,
Hi, I'm
everybody.
Joy. We're good. We're making this a really good habit. Michelle, would you please introduce us?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to If These Heels Can Talk. I'm Michelle with Bad Cat Digital.
And I'm JoyGenea with Solutions by JoyGenea. Who do we have as an amazing guest today? We have company.
Today we have Rhoda Paurus, who owns St. Cloud Floral in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And we are so excited to hear from her today. So, Rhoda grew up in Cold Spring and is married and has an adult son. She has worked in the floral industry since high school and has been the owner of St. Cloud Floral for the last 10 years, which I'm sure has felt longer than that in the last two. Rhoda's true passion is creating and designing with fresh flowers. So, Rhoda, thank you so much for being on If These Heels Can Talk.
Thank you for having me
Super
here today.
excited for having you today. Big important question is the first question, our warm up question. What is your favorite shoe?
Oh, well, truthfully, that was kind of a tough one for me because I love shoes and I do
Oh,
have a few pair. Um, Probably my favorite shoes would be Mary Jane's. And,
Ah,
you can get a Mary Jane in a tennis shoe or a heel or a clog. Um, Dansko carries some very fine Mary Janes.
lovely. I love it. And I know you wear Danskos almost solely while you're at work because of all the standing and walking that you do
Yes.
and all of the slippery stuff that you have to walk through.
it's good
Um,
to know you're taking care of your feet. Like, that is an important, in what
Yeah.
you do, that's an important thing.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we'll get into the real
We're,
questions. And
okay, so
Georgina, I think you have one.
I do. I'm ready.
Yeah.
What is one of the biggest trends you are seeing in your field right now?
Um, there's lots of trends that are always happening in the floral industry. I think one of the most positive trends that we've been seeing for the last year and a half or 2 years is the promotion of locally grown, sustainably grown flowers in local areas. Central Minnesota has several that we work with. So during the summer months, we have the option of buying local garden flowers that these people have grown um, for people to do weddings. Some of the pickup bouquets, like Flower and Flower Bakery in St. Joe carries locally grown bouquets, and we have 3 or 4 different small flower farmers from central Minnesota that we purchase from. So it's really fun to work with them and to be able to support them in their projects too.
I did not. Thank you. Like, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Um, is that something or is that something people ask when they call you, or is that just an additional thing you're able to like share with people? Is it? I'm curious if the customers are looking for that also.
Some are. Some
Good.
are more concerned about the footprint than others.
Yeah.
Um, when it's not summertime, probably my favorite supplier that we work with is Len Bush Roses out of Plymouth. Um, they have been working on their sustainability practices for at least 10 years. And what they've done for our industry as a professional grower is pretty amazing. So it's great to be able to support people like that and be able to tell people that even though it's the middle of winter, we do have Minnesota grown flowers available right now too.
That's so
Super cool.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so
Nice.
cool. I know that it's hard sometimes for people to understand that flowers, are seasonal. We're so used to getting kind of whatever we want
Yeah.
whenever we want it.
Yep.
And I would imagine that not just with locally grown flowers, but with flowers in general, that there are times when you just can't get things that people want.
Yep.
So, what is it that your customers are asking for right now? And are you, able to kind of source and find those things?
We are. Um, our seasons always are a little bit off from what the consumer season is, because we do not only we get local product, we get local tulips out of from Lenbush right now. But we also get spring flowers right now that are coming out of Holland. So we're able to order from them year round. And so we have the spring flowers. We have the tulips and the hyacinth and the daffodils and all of that spring that we Minnesotans are craving right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you get that in early because there's a lot of demand for it now?
Yep, we
Okay.
do. And it's kind of in the floral business when you exit December and the Christmas holiday, our next season is spring. And so that's what people want to see, and they're ready for it right after Christmas time too.
Are
So
we
so
all?
by the time around May when our Holland product like the tulips and such are done, they start blooming here locally. So it's a nice transition.
Excellent.
Oh, talking about flowers is so nice on a day like today. That's all I have to like. I'm just visualizing all this, and I'm like, why are we not just taking a tour of her shop? Like, this is so
Right?
fabulous.
Yeah, next time we should do this at the shop. That would be great.
We can take our show on the
Scratch and
road.
sniff.
Absolutely. Scratch and sniff.
There's an 80s moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Us 80s ladies. What a real question, a more serious question. What is your vision for the future of your business? Like things are changing, trends are changing.
Yep.
Where do you kind of see yourself taking things?
We trends is always in the forefront of our mind because even though our shop has been here in St. Cloud since 1912, staying on trend and what's happening and not falling behind is something we work really hard at. We can still do traditional designs and traditional pieces when people ask for them, but we also want to be able to show people what's going on. If they're seeing that in California or if they're seeing that in Europe, we want to be able to offer that here too. And so that's kind of the shop that we have been is, we would call it a traditional mom and pop flower shop. It's not one of the trendier. We're always going to be here to send birthday flowers or anniversary flowers or occasion flowers. Probably one of the things that means the most to me in my profession is when people have funerals and they need sympathy flowers. For me to be able to work with them and create something memorable for their loved one, that's probably the biggest. I get the most satisfaction from being able to help people plan a funeral, a tribute for their loved one. So that's a big part of our business too. And that's kind of where I continue to see us go. We can add different things and do different things within our shop and within our business, but at the end of the day, we're still going to be there for that person that needs to send birthday flowers across town. So
Do you ever feel a pull to be that flashy, glitzy, just in the moment kind of like early on? Were you ever just like, let's do that?
Yeah, we did, we do.
Because I know you're very trendy and stuff too, but like you said, you're not that shop that's just like that's its only exclusive thing. Like you're very well-rounded.
Well-rounded. Yep, and that's I guess how I would describe it too, was that we try to stay well-rounded. But yeah, when I get that urge to do those really cool designs that you see on Pinterest and stuff,
Yeah.
but as everybody knows, I can make that Pinterest bouquet for you, but are you going to want to pay for that Pinterest bouquet? So
I don't think everybody knows that. Can you describe that a little bit more for me, Rhoda?
we might make a smaller version to put in the cooler, or Because that's kind of what it comes down to. We can do it for them, but it's, it's a matter of figuring out what it's going to cost in the end.
What makes them so expensive, the cool bouquets on Pinterest?
I think you don't realize all of the flowers that are in that bouquet.
Sure.
Because they've done it artistically rather than me making a bouquet that I need to make look like a $50 value. If I were to use the higher end flowers that are in the Pinterest bouquet, I wouldn't be able to make that $50 bouquet. I have to use a few of the more common flowers to be able to get that perceived value in there. And it's usually the choice of flowers that they're using in the Pinterest bouquets.
Yeah, Pinterest bouquets don't seem to have a whole lot of carnations, a whole lot of ferns, a whole lot of the stuff that's, I would say, more common.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I can get the peonies in, but do you really want to pay $15 a stem right now? That's where I maybe would suggest something that's in between common and not as common.
Sure.
Finding a balance.
This is what it's like, though, to have a conversation with a florist and a professional and like have the conversation over. And I just know this, having known Rhoda for a while, over just like ordering something online and being like, sure. And that for special occasions, like you were talking about the funeral and so forth. And those are moments when that conversation is really nice and a real bonus.
There are peonies in my yard. There's like 8 peony bushes in my yard, and they bloom for like a minute and a half.
Yes.
So, I mean, it makes sense to me that they would be, and they're huge, and they always have bugs on them. So I'm sure that, to get them commercially so that they don't have bugs on them and they actually hold and last is a huge challenge and a huge process. And I'm trying to think, like, if I can't keep the ones that are on bushes in my yard blooming for more than a minute, literally a minute, and then they start shedding everywhere, then how is it that a cut flower is going to last long enough to not only be shipped, but then to be put in a bouquet that somebody wants to use as an event for like 6 hours. Yeah. Right.
And some of that is, it's the same, it's the difference between buying flowers from our shop and a street vendor, we'll say. People don't realize the climate control is a huge part of it.
Sure.
Michelle, those flowers that are shipped are kept at one temperature through their plane ride, through their truck ride, till they get here. So the climate control is a big part of it. The other thing is the amount of money that we invest in some of the solutions that we use in our water. The reason you have bugs on your peonies, the ants, is because when they're tight on the bush, those ants are what help open it. Not only the water coming up from there, but the ants do help in opening up that peony.
Wow.
We don't have the bugs on them here because once they get here, we have the solutions that help hydrate them so that they will open up. And there's another solution we use that feeds the flower, but will help hold it at that stage so it doesn't progress any further too.
So it doesn't just shed everywhere instantly.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. Okay. Well, maybe you have to come over and like pump some of that underground under the bushes so that they can look back, because they're gorgeous. It's just they're gorgeous for like a day, and if it rains, oh my gosh, they're just on the ground.
I know, and they're so pretty.
So we're gonna okay. It's the real world. It's like 1995, and we're gonna talk real. So real question. Shifting away from the flowers. If there was one thing that you have learned in life and or business that you wish you knew earlier, what would that be?
Well, there's a lot of things.
Top 10.
There's a lot of things.
We're very embracing of the fail forward concept here.
Yes. If you didn't notice.
I think, and I can't say that I would have done it any different had I known or understood it. But I think, as many people will agree, as a business owner, they should have some I can't say hands on. They should have some training on how difficult it is to have employees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a catch-22 because you need employees, but yet you want to be a friend to your employee, but yet you're still their boss. And, to always, sometimes after a long day, I might describe it as always being the positive cheerleader in the group for those around you, that sometimes you just want to be that one to say, you know what, I give up. I'm going in the corner for the day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's like when you're the owner, you don't get to do that. You don't
right.
get the cheerleader. You have to be the cheerleader.
Yes.
Well, and that's that multiple hats thing. You
Yes.
you don't get to put on the employee, like nowhere in my closet anymore is the employee hat.
Right. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist anymore. There's no more whining because somebody else made me do something. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of
And it's some days I do, I'll see a job posting somewhere and think, say, no, that sounds interesting.
I do the same
Just
thing.
to
I do it too.
just to be able
You're like,
to
oh,
to
I
walk
could work
away
at
for a
Target.
while and let someone else make the decisions.
I
And
could stock shelves overnight. That would be
yes,
so awesome.
yes,
All alone.
I'll
in the
admit,
dark.
Christmas time, I do think about it. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
those people have the life.
yes, yes. So I would say that that's probably I don't know that I could have done or would have done anything different, but we
Right.
we maybe should mentor beginning people in the beginning
Yeah.
on that's going to be one of your biggest challenges is having employees and working with employees.
hmm And working side by side with them, like, so, because there's when a lot of times when people think of a business owner, they think of somebody who's very removed from the
Yes,
day-to-day operations of a business.
yes,
But when you own a small business, especially like yours, I mean, you're the head designer, you're the chief customer service representative, you're the person
yeah.
who you struggle to get your friends to stop texting you the flower orders and call them into the shop. Guilty as
Oh, come
charged.
on.
But you're the person that ends up having to literally catch all of the things
Yes.
and be the one that is making the decisions and the one that is responsible for the decisions, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Like the thing we were kind of talking a little bit before the podcast started about gas. So one of the challenges that we were talking about was gas prices. You deliver flowers. Can you talk to me a little bit about your thought process there? Because as a leader, it must have been really difficult to think to yourself, well, this is cutting into my profit margin, and yet I don't want to raise prices for our
Hmm.
customers.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely the fine line because I sometimes have a hard time separating myself as the decision maker, business owner, and the consumer because
Mm.
I look at it probably too much from the consumer's vantage point of, boy, are they going to want to pay that price?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's we hadn't raised our prices in a couple years, and so it was time to do that, and it's um, we just have to make the decision and stand behind it and go with it, and then hopefully at some point we'll be able to drop it back down the dollar that we had to raise it.
So
Hmm.
wait a minute, because there were so many supply problems with gifts, with
Oh
Hmm.
supplies,
Lord.
with flowers themselves. There were growing problems. I mean, I remember reading things about growing seasons being off because the demand at the
Yep.
beginning of the pandemic was so high. You didn't raise your prices through all of that? You
Um,
waited until now.
just the gas price till now.
Wow.
The flower price, in the beginning, we took smaller margins to
Mhm.
hoping things would level
Wow.
out.
Right.
But as time went on, we did, if there were certain flowers that maybe came from a certain place, and then the availability got harder to get. And so we didn't do things all at once.
Okay.
Roses are really hard to get
Like you
right.
stepped you stepped
Yeah.
into it a little bit.
Yep.
Sure.
So
we
it sounds like you really listened to the market. Like when
Yeah.
if something was consistently like on a rise, you're like, well, this gets passed on. Like that's,
Yeah.
you cannot continue. And that's realistic about business. You cannot continue to absorb it. I am having some conversations with business owners right now. They're like, well, I hate to raise the price. I'm like, I hate to look at your expenses. Like it's like, you've got to get that you've let go of your margin and now we're into the point of you're going red. Like this, this isn't acceptable. So I can tell you've been in business 10 years and you've been through there's been a few rides in that process and it's good to remember.
And listening to continuing education, whether it's when you can jump on when you can jump in a conversation that they're having about what's going on in the industry right now. One of our suppliers will do something once a month.
Nice.
To whether it's just a 20-minute webinar, just to gain, if you get one thing out of that 20 minutes once a month, it's worth it. And to be able to find out what peers are doing in different states, maybe in cities my size, or and to know what's going on. We talked about the fact yesterday, if we have to help a customer send flowers in California, we have to know that we've got to get a $20 charge for their delivery out in California, because their gas is that much higher than ours.
Sure.
So just staying in tune with what's going on, not only in our industry, but around the United States, because we have flowers that come from all over. So
awesome. Okay, I have one final question for you, Rhoda.
Okay.
I don't know if JoyGenea, you have any more?
Nope.
But what do you wish every single customer who walked into your shop knew?
I don't know if I would say I wish they knew it. I think probably the biggest thing is a florist that is maybe not appreciated is how physically hard our job is. There's people that come in and it's pretty and it smells good, and it would be so much fun to work here. And it's like, you know what? We really do have a lot of fun, but you have to know you're going to be on your feet for a minimum of 8 hours during this day, and you're going to put in a minimum of 10,000 steps and lift 30-pound buckets in each hand and carry them. And so I think we work in a beautiful industry, but I just don't think you guys, as knowing me and knowing what goes on in the flower shop, know that it's not just pushing petals all day. There's a lot of
there is something to be said for that. There's that saying that nobody wants to know how you make two things, laws and sausages. And I would say that flowers would be another one that you don't want to know what it took to get that bouquet together.
Yeah.
The kind of inventory, the kind of storage, the kind of digging around, the kind of planning and thought.
Yep.
And also the tools, the how rough it is on your hands, how much they're in water, like that's got to just be. And then there's somebody behind it doing it by hand, because there's no other way to do it. That's a person making that for you. It's really cool when you think about it, that from something that's maybe a little chaotic or a little messy or a little challenging comes these beautiful things. It's absolutely gorgeous.
We probably work best.
Rhoda, I'm so glad you.
Yeah.
A little pressure. Yes. I think you guys do. I just have to say, I could sit and chat with you much longer, but we always try and promise to keep this shorter, but thank you so much for being a guest with us today. This has been wonderful. So, St. Cloud Floral, this was Rhoda. If
Yep.
you need flowers, she's going to be the person we are going to recommend.
Absolutely.
Yes. So feel
Thanks,
free
you
to,
guys.
yes,
Don't
follow
forget to
you on
visit St.
social.
Cloud Floral at stcloudfloral.com. They're on all of the socials, and they've got a fantastic Instagram feed with gorgeous pictures. So make sure that make sure that
Yes.
you're following. If these heals, you can subscribe and follow with us as well. But you'll want to check out St. Cloud Floral and the amazing things that they're doing there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.